Hey, so in this video, I'm going to share with you a few secrets about how to overcome public speaking fear. And this is the exact technique that we teach in our Fearless Presentations classes. So I've used this, just personally, I've used this with over 30,000 people over the last 20 years. It's worked every single time. So if you do these techniques, you should be able to at least reduce, if not practically eliminate, your public speaking fear. So step one, the very first thing that you have to do is you got to figure out where that public speaking fear is coming from. A little public speaking fear is normal, by the way. If it's not there, something is probably wrong. So you should have some type of nervousness. And the reason why is because public speaking is one of the few skill sets that when you practice it for the first time, you're doing it in front of a group of people, obviously. I mean, otherwise it wouldn't be public speaking. Other skills, let's say when you're 15, 16 years old and you're learning to drive a car. I mean, you don't go out and learn to drive a car with your entire high school watching you, right? So it's one of those things that we practice with, maybe a parent or a coach in a controlled environment like a parking lot. Whereas with public speaking, especially in the business world, the very first time that we have to do it, we're speaking to our peers or we're speaking to a group of people. And if we flub something, it's just going to make us more nervous in the future. So you got to figure out where that nervousness is coming from for you. And different people have different types of public speaking fear. For some of the folks that kind of come through the Fearless Presentations class, for instance, some of them have an extreme phobia. It's something so dramatic, something has happened in the past, or there's some type of fear that can be very debilitating or very challenging. For others, it's just a nervousness, or they just want to get better at speaking. It's just it's a small kind of thing. For me personally, when I first started speaking professionally anyway, it was a little nerve-wracking for me because I had a fear of speaking to a higher level of people. Like if I felt like the folks in the audience were more educated or more successful than I was, then I would get extremely nervous speaking to that group. So I had to kind of figure out why. Why is it that particular type of group is making me more nervous? And so what I did was I went through a little checklist that allowed me to kind of just ask myself a series of questions, and going through that checklist helped me identify a specific situation that occurred in my past that was causing me to be more nervous. And for me, it was when I was in college. I had an internship with a big oil company, and at the end of that internship, I had to go into a boardroom and give a presentation to the other interns were there. So it was my peers, but it was also my boss, and all the other interns' bosses were in the room as well. And there were a few corporate vice presidents from Bakersfield that had flown in as well to listen to the presentations or to watch us deliver those presentations. And I was pretty nervous anyway. And I speak fast, but when I get nervous, I speak really fast. So I had 15 minutes of prepared speech, and I delivered the entire 15 minutes in maybe 3.5 minutes. So I was just embarrassed when I sat down. And as a result of that specific situation, it caused me to think that, okay, anytime I speak in front of a higher level audience, I get so nervous that people can't even understand me anymore. And so once I figured out what was causing the fear, it was much easier for me to do things that would help me reduce that fear. So step number 2, after you kind of identify where that fear is coming from. In fact, let me kind of back up a little bit, because that checklist that I went through is something that I've kind of created for you as well. So if you want to kind of figure out where that fear is coming from for you, you can download a free checklist that will help you kind of go through a step-by-step process to identify where that fear is coming from for you, because it would be very difficult for me to do all of that on a single video. So make sure and grab that download. So step number 2 is you want to do things that will help mitigate the risk of failure. For us, what we do in our public speaking classes is we have a step-by-step process that we take people through when we're teaching them how to speak in front of a group, and we break it into bite-sized pieces. So instead of giving them a full, 1 hour long presentation that they have to design and finish in a short period of time, that would be very difficult. We break it down into component parts. We teach them how to do an introduction. And then not only do we teach them how to do it, but then we show them. So we will have an instructor actually give an example of him or her doing that in front of the group, and then we'll have them have a little bit of time to prepare it, have them practice it with a partner. So every time we're going through this step-by-step process, we're reducing the risk of failure that person would have a bad experience when he or she stands up in front of a group. So we're teaching them something really simple in bite-sized pieces. We're giving them an example that they can rely on, or they can copy basically, and then we're having them practice it with another person so that they've actually already run through it at least once before we actually have them get up in front of the group and do that thing. And we do that over and over and over again in the class. And every time we do, we're reducing the risk of failure in that for that particular person who's going through the class. I give you an example. This would be like, let's say you're going skydiving for the very first time. You've never been skydiving before. What they do is they take you to the skydiving place, they put the parachute on you, and they take you up to an airplane and shove you out the side of a moving airplane. There's a good chance you're going to have a high risk of failure if that's all you've done. So what they will do to mitigate that risk is they're going to send you through like a ground school. So they'll probably have you spend an hour, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours or so going through the step-by-step process over and over and over and over before you even get into the plane. We're going to have you feel really comfortable with that process while you're on the ground, so that when you get up in the air and there's more stress involved in the process, you've already done it quite a few times. It makes it a whole lot easier. That's kind of what happens in a public speaking class as well. So you want to mitigate the risk of failure. And then the third thing that you want to do is you want to practice that skill in a controlled environment. Now, obviously, if you go to a public speaking class like Fearless Presentations, that's built in. The class itself is a controlled environment. If you don't have that opportunity, though, you can do things like you can go to a Toastmasters group. There are Toastmasters in pretty much every city around the world, I think, and you can join one of those clubs. You can get quite a bit of practice learning to speak in front of a group in that kind of situation. If you know where that fear is coming from step number one, you can put yourselves into less risky, controlled environment situations that will help you reduce that nervousness. So like, for instance, let's say that one of the fears that you have is speaking in front of bigger groups of people. You do okay when you're one-on-one with somebody or one-on-two or one-on-three, but hey, if there's 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people in the room and you have to speak in that size group, ooh, man, that's when that nervousness kind of kicks in. Well, if that's the case, you might join a social organization. You might join a Rotary Club or a Kiwanis or something like that, and then run for office. You can be the parliamentarian or a vice president or president of that organization. That will give you, basically 52 weeks of practicing in front of a bigger group, and it's more of a controlled environment. If you flub a line when you're up in front of your friends at the Rotary Club, not nearly as dramatic as if there's $100,000 on the line and it's a contract in the business world. So there are all kinds of situations that you can kind of put yourself in where you can practice in a more controlled environment. Obviously, I'm kind of biased, but what I would encourage you to do is to come to a class. The Fearless Presentations classes are all over the world, and you can take one of those 2-day classes just about any time of year and have an immediate success. But if that's not available for you, then any of these other areas can work as well. So before we end, I'm going to ask 2 really big favors of you. Number one, since this is one of the first videos that we're doing on the Fearless Presentations channel, if you can subscribe to our channel down there, because if you do that, when we put out new videos, you'll be able to see them and get access to them very quickly. And then secondly, give us some feedback. If you like the video, just put a comment down in the comment section where it says, hey, great video, you did great, that was pretty cool. Or if you think it sucked, just tell us it sucked and we'll figure out some way to improve it on the next one. Or if you have ideas of questions that you have that you want us to kind of cover in future videos, put those in the comments below. We read every one of those comments, and it makes it much easier for us to create a great channel for you. So thanks for your help. We'll see you on the next video.